Today, I am going to give you all the materials to make 5 small changes that have completely transformed how I use AI coding agents to make me much more productive, efficient, and effective. This works across all AI coding agents like Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, and more. On my screen, you see the 5 tips I've put together for you, and they all build on each other to make meaningful differences with how you can use AI. Some of these are capabilities I've built into the agents, and some are habits to develop in your own workflow and how you work with AI in a day-to-day basis. With that, let's start with number 1. Tip number 1 is to use your voice. Dictate and tell your coding agent what you want it to do utilizing your voice. Especially for your longer prompts where there's a lot of context that you otherwise would need to take the time to type out, it is so much easier to just say what you want your coding agent to do and have it do it for you. Now, Claude Code, as you can see here, when it's running in the terminal, it doesn't have an actual feature to dictate to it. And so I utilize my Mac OS Dictation. You can also have a Google Doc open or Microsoft Word, and those have voice to text features within them. Additionally, for tools like Cursor, if I hover over here in the top right-hand corner, you can see there's voice input. If I flip over here to Codex, you can also click to dictate and say what you want to say to Codex in order to have it follow your command utilizing your voice. And an important note here, even if it doesn't get your voice exactly correct and it messes up some words, oftentimes I find AI coding agents are so good at probabilistic reasoning that it will be able to interpret exactly what you want. That said, it's still best practice just to skim through to make sure everything that you said is coming out as you would want it to. However, a lot of times I do that very quickly because I have a lot of confidence in this being able to interpret what I want. And honestly, voice to text software is pretty good now. To give you an example, let me switch back over here to Claude Code. I'm going to press the microphone button. Okay, so I would like you to replace all references to Claude Code specifically within the AI Coding Agents Tips folder underneath videos and replace them with references to general AI agents, since these tips are meant to be across any AI agent that the viewer is utilizing for this video. Okay, I just dictated that, and to write out that sentence, I'm not going to measure it time by time, but it would have taken me a little bit longer than however many seconds it took me to say that to Claude Code. And all I did was click the microphone key on my keyboard in my Mac, and boom, I finished it. And now Claude Code is off and working. And this is really seamless with those dictation buttons in the other AI agent tools. And you can even see that instead of coding, it said coding, which sounds very similar, but I'm confident in Claude Code's ability to interpret that correctly as opposed to the chemical drug I think that coding actually is. And Claude Code was able to successfully interpret coding for coding and made all of the changes within the repository. With that, let's move to tip 2. The second tip I have for you is to implement context-first planning. All of these AI agents have plan mode embedded with them to actually give you a plan where they are only reading files before they actually begin to execute that plan. That way, you have insight in exactly what they're going to do before they execute it. And there are also great open source context engineering frameworks I've utilized, like Get Shit Done, or GSD, which is from Tatch's resources here, or Superpowers, amongst many others that you can find within the context engineering and AI coding communities. Taking an example here, I have utilized superpowers and GSD to help me build a couple different applications. So I'm within the repository for one of my applications here, Curious Questions, which will be coming out soon. And I am going to shift tab in Codex here to actually move into plan mode. And that shift tab is something I found to be universal across Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, and other coding agents that I've utilized to move into plan mode. Now, once I send this, instead of actually going and executing the code, which it probably still would be successful doing, I'm going to have it present me with a plan first. That way I can verify this output before it actually executes things. And if you look back on my past videos that I've had on my channel, I've utilized Tatch's resources for creating prompts and other forms of running this specific sort of context engineering framework. Codex has now outputted my plan here to mirror the Claude Markdown into Agents.md. I reviewed it quickly, and now I'm going to implement the plan, and it will be off and running doing the exact changes I wanted it to do, and gave me that confirmation before actually executing that. And so this is a very safe way to establish your context up front, which is critical for AI agents in order for them to do your task successfully once you have exactly spelled out for them what it is you're looking to do. Tip number 3 is to utilize your global context. Now, every time you start a Claude Code session, a Codex session, or Cursor session, or any other type of agentic coding tool, it reads in the context file, either the Claude Markdown file, if it's Claude, or the agents.markdown file, if it's any of the other tools. Now, you can see we have our repo level agents markdown and Claude Markdown within this repository. However, there's actually a global version of these context files that you can load into every single project and every single interaction that you have with one of these agentic coding tools. So you don't have to rewrite the rules, or rather have AI rewrite the rules for you every single time you go into a new repository. As far as where you can find those global files, underneath the .claude, you have the Claude Markdown. Underneath the .codex, you can find the agents Markdown here as well, in addition to your .cursor, whatever other tools that you have available to you within their settings folder that is for global changes and global applications. To provide some examples of what you can put in these global context files, for me, I've added both my global agents markdown and Claude markdown that I showed you earlier within those folders into this. They're slightly adjusted to make it usable in a templated sort of way for any other data professionals taking these markdown files, or anyone else, because this goes beyond data, that wants to utilize these global settings. Where if I scroll up to the top here, and these are identical, you'll see that there are specific critical operating rules to verify when verifiable, not making assumptions, keep the communication style direct and concise, and also keep it simple. If you're not going to need it, don't utilize it. Design things for human output, and then go with verification, have safety and side effects, so not making destructive operations without asking my permission, and then documentation and code quality, and then also things specific to data engineering, analysis, and BI, since I'm always utilizing different sessions across different repositories for this too. And then privacy, research, citations, examples. So there's a lot of different things that can be globally applicable to how you utilize these AI coding agents that you can embed once and then have that apply to all your sessions. And one mini tip within this, you notice that these contents are exactly the same between Claude Code and all of the other agentic coding tools that use agents markdown, you can actually point Claude Code within the Claude markdown file to get all of its context from the agents markdown file. That way you don't have to maintain two different versions of these files. That said, once you have this context set up for you globally, it makes it very seamless to have consistent conversations across all of your different sessions, while also customizing them to the repo utilizing these repo context files. The fourth tip I have for you today is git-ship, which is one command to ship all the changes you've made inside of your repository. So if you look at the bottom of my screen here, you can see that I have the old way of doing this, where a lot of times when I made changes in a repository to complete a data analysis, maybe make some small alterations, and I don't really need to go through the full process of having a comprehensive review, or I'm not changing a production application, right? I'm just delivering a data analysis file, completing a ticket, what it may be. I would type out, please add, commit, push this branch, or put it on another branch if we're on main, and then merge it into the main branch of my repository. And with git-ship, instead, we put all of this into a skill file that I've included inside the repository here. And you can see that I have some changes in my repository here. So I'll actually go through and run this to see what it looks like. And this skill takes one argument with two options, where you have git-ship, and you can either type yes or no. And if you leave it blank, it assumes no. And what that means is if you type yes after git-ship, then it assumes that you want to merge your pull request. So meaning you're comfortable with the changes as you've made them inside the repository, and you just want to see it inside the main branch. Whereas if you type in no, that means you don't want it merged into the main branch. So you want the pull requests to stay open until you have a chance to review it inside of GitHub, or maybe you ask for a code review for somebody else. It has really 6 steps where it does a pre-flight check, checks if you're on the main branch. If you are on the main branch, it will create a feature branch with all the changes that you've created inside your repository, so you can separate those two out. That way you're not committing and pushing directly to main, and you keep your source of truth stable. And you also have the record of a pull request being merged into main from another branch. Then it stages and commits, pushes, creates a PR, merges, and then cleans it all up too. So it removes your local branch as well as a remote branch once you run it. That way it runs the complete Git workflow without you having to type it all out every single time, which is a little bit of time, but like everything in this video adds up once you do it over and over and over again without optimizing for it. So now we'll run the command. As you can see above my head here, I have some changes that have not been added and committed and pushed. And then additionally, I'm on the main branch for this repository. So I will click git-ship and yes, click enter, and we'll move our screen up here to see Claude Code work a little bit. And once this runs through its checklist, we'll show the PR screen once it's all been merged. The command has now finished running, and we can see it goes through all the different stages of adding, committing, and pushing the changes to a branch in our repository, and then ultimately using the GitHub CLI in addition to the git commands to create and merge the pull request and then delete the local branch and switch us back to our main branch here after creating the feature branch. And this is something that you can utilize within Cursor. As you can see, I have the command embedded within Cursor in the top right-hand corner of my screen here. It is something that you can build for Codex. I have it here for git-ship and whatever other AI tool that you are using. However, one thing I noticed when running this command is that it didn't do everything that I wanted to, where it didn't actually delete the remote branch. So we'll need to make an edit to this skill that will lead into my next tip for you. And thus we are at our fifth and final tip of this video: use AI to help improve AI. And this sounds obvious once you hear it, but I find that a lot of times people forget about this capability of using it to improve itself. If an AI agent like Claude Code or Codex or Cursor can write code, refactor functions, automate your entire workflow, we can also utilize it to improve itself with how we're working with it. So let's switch over to our Claude Code screen here, and I'll dictate a prompt to ask AI to, instead of leaving the remote branch undeleted when I ask it to merge, automatically delete that remote branch. That way I only have my main branch remaining within my repository, so it's nice and clean. All right, starting in plan mode here, and now I'm going to start dictating. I would like to have the git-ship skill change for when I say yes to merge the pull request. I would also like to have the remote branch deleted. Please change this globally and ensure that the git ship skill file inside of the Claude Code tips repository here is also altered to reflect that change. The dictation has been done, and now we are going to wait for the plan to come out and have it improve itself. While it does that, let me show you a couple more things. Now, as you can see here, I actually ran this prompt to ask Claude Code to give me all the skills, commands, and hooks I've created with it, along with 10 words on its purpose, and then separate by global versus local repository skills, commands, and hooks. And an important note here, skills and commands are actually the same thing. You can see this within the Claude Code documentation that they have been merged together and essentially represent the same thing. So you can use commands and skills interchangeably, although the more correct nomenclature now is skills, given that is what is referred to in this official documentation. And Cursor, Codex all have the same sorts of setups. And then hooks, which are automated workflows or essentially things that allow you or disallow you from doing specific things within a repository, are also available within Claude Code and Cursor right now. Codex doesn't have them, but this is actually currently under development by them. So I imagine this will be most likely relevant by the time this video comes out, if not a few days after or weeks after. But all of these skills and commands and hooks are things that I've built or have either installed with Claude Code at the moment. And for example, when I was originally creating the git ship skill, I said, hey, I do this frequently. Can you help me build a skill that will address this workflow for it? And then we iterated and refined that. And then I have additionally a lot of different skills associated with building out the content for my YouTube channel, for scripting and writing descriptions and doing research. And Claude Code is an essential part of my workflow for building these videos. And then additionally, you can see the commands we have, the hooks. Some of them I've definitely downloaded from the plugin marketplace too, with GSD, as you see here. And then the commands that are specific to this repository. And you can see, even though skills and commands have now merged underneath Claude Code, both of them still work in a very similar fashion, along with my agents and the hooks I have here too, where I have a specific protection on this main branch. So all of this to say, if you have a very common workflow or a common problem that you're encountering and you solve it in a very consistent way, you can just say, hey, Claude, Codex, Cursor, whatever AI agent that you're using, can you help me create a skill or a hook, and you can offer either option to let the AI agent determine what is best. That will help me solve this problem in this way that I've been consistently solving it. And so you give it the workflow that's been working for you, and you can utilize it to say, are there any other better ways to solve this problem? And that will be oftentimes the best way for brainstorming a solution to your problem, because a lot of times I found in my case that I have an idea for how to solve a problem, and then AI has a little bit better of an idea for how to solve that same problem. Also, if you don't want to build your own skills, there are whole plugin marketplaces where other people have shared their skills and agents that they've built that you can install as installable packages. And you can browse it within Claude by doing \plugin. And you can also look at the specific plugin marketplaces here. Within Claude, we have the Cursor Marketplace. And then if you download the Codex app, you can also go into it by clicking skills and seeing the recommended skills within here. So that way you can utilize best practices other people have already built for your own workflows. Now, switching back over to our main plan here, we can see that Claude Code has a plan for what exactly it is going to do to alter the git-ship and say that it will delete the remote branch after we merge it. So we will go ahead and clear the context and approve this. And you can notice I've changed the folder name here. So once this skill change goes into effect, we'll rerun git-ship and then see its changes to make sure that it is working correctly. As we can see in this terminal output that I'm highlighting here, the new and improved skill has been successfully run. And if we go over to the pull request here, we can see now that the branch has been deleted. Therefore, we utilize AI to improve our AI skill. And this is a critical workflow that I utilize every day in a mentality I try to carry forward throughout all of my work as I'm working with these coding agents. So those are my 5 tips I have for you today. As a next step, try them out and let me know how it goes. And also, if you got your own AI coding tips, drop them in the comments below. I'm always looking for ways to improve my workflow, and I know there's a lot more out there that I don't know, and I bet a lot of you have found things that I have not. If this was helpful, a like and subscribe really does help the channel. And as always, thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time.